Good afternoon, card fans. Welcome to the second episode of Uncommon Cards. Very first episode where we'll be talking with someone. As you can see, we've got Elliot Charters here. So, Elliot has been probably the most consistent player in Australia ever since One Piece has come out. Consistently topping, it's doing really well. So a logical choice for our first interview. Welcome to the show, Elliot.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Would you be able to just give the people a bit of a brief overview of where you are competitively within One Piece, how you came to One Piece, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. My name's Elliot. I've been playing One Piece competitively for just over 2 years now. I got into the game after Yu-Gi-Oh was just being a little bit too expensive for me. One of my friends brought me on a camping trip. His name is Cam, and he's one of my teammates in the game. And yeah, ever since then, I just fell in love with it. He showed me the Doflamingo deck, and I just love the way that the combos felt with that deck. And yeah, ever since then, just kind of went from there. And yeah, ever since then, I got my first top in O2. It was a little bit of a fluke, but basically I just wanted to play Whitebeard. I saw that there was a build that you would run, which is just very consistent, quite easy to play, and essentially you just wall up with like 8k leader and like 2 life. Sounds like another deck that I also play, BY Luffy. So I kind of just got that that strong fundamental background from playing that deck, and ever since then just added a bit of complexity to it. And I've only won 2 1v1 events, but I believe I have the most tops in Australia, most top 16s. Basically just been trying my best to get better at the game and also help people as I learn the game myself.
Yeah, cool. That's a great overview of yourself. Yeah, you're you were talking earlier, and I think your most recent single 1v1 win was this year.
Yep, correct. So that was on BY Luffy in, I believe it was OP9, and it was a very good meta for BY. I believe that I was able to beat some of my toughest matchups. Teach in O9, although not as strong as it is right now with the 5 cost Kuzan, I managed to defeat 1 or 2 in that run. I also beat 2 Bonnies in the final 2 rounds, so I was
Yeah.
pretty happy with the fact that I was able to overcome some of my hardest matchups, and I miss the BY dearly ever since the Moria ban.
Yeah, Maury, man. I saw just recently there's a mini gecko coming back, but locked, leader locked, so no good for you. Sorry.
Well, my first 1v1 win was actually with Gecko Moria, so I'm
Ooh.
definitely going to be testing out that card. The combo on paper, what you can do with it is crazy. I think the deck, if it gets a spell, like maybe like a Great Eruption or Ice Age S spell, just for Thriller Bark, I think
Yeah.
that could be a really good deck once again.
Yeah, I think so too. Of hunting down an alt gecko leader, if anyone's watching. Um, yeah, cool. So you came in sort of mid OPO2 there with Whitebeard and finished in a top there almost immediately. How important was that background from Yu-Gi-Oh for you coming into One Piece?
So I think my background when it comes to overall gaming is quite important. I've always been someone who's been pretty good at understanding patterns and mathematics about card games. Fun thing that people don't know so much about me, I actually topped a Pokemon tournament when I was 10 years old. They have the juniors, which is like under 10s, and I finished top 4 at my nationals.
Yeah, nice.
I grew up in
Congratulations.
England, so that's where I did it.
All right.
And ever since then, I understood kind of like card advantage and maths and like how to get the most value out of your cards. And I think those things over time have always especially when it comes to video games and stuff, that is very mathematical as well. Coming from League of Legends and World of Warcraft, there are just the best ways to do things. So understanding that and being able to break down the game of, oh, I do this and I can, take one more card from their hand, or I can save one more card, and just doing better things over time will yield the best results is something that I've found.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of that getting better over time, then how are you actively improving yourself when you're going into these events? Like, you're so consistently in that top 16. What are you doing in lead ups to these events that helps you to improve and stay in that top echelon of players?
Absolutely. So I think when it comes to being good at the game and just, understanding the fundamentals and the matchups and stuff like that, that just comes a lot from just raw grinding and, watching videos and just playing a lot of the ranked sim. I feel the thing that may have set me apart in the past, and something that I haven't really been able to figure out in 10 or 11, is just my understanding of what the best deck is that I should be playing for a singular event. Now, one thing that I will say is that I started, for example, on Whitebeard, 02 to 04. Some people will say that Law was the best deck between those times, but I was
Yeah.
finding that what worked for me was just having the fundamental idea and the very consistent deck. I feel like Gecko Moria, BY, and Whitebeard they were the most consistent decks in the format, in my opinion. So I tried to take that understanding of what I should be playing and then just hammer a lot of games in, talking to people who play the same decks, talking to people who play other decks if I'm struggling those kind of matchups, and just
Yeah.
overall thinking about also sometimes thinking outside the box. Like sometimes it'll be, for example, good to starve people's decks in certain situations. Understanding things on the fly, I think, is also really important. Like if your opponent over counters early on, even though you're not meant to starve them, you might just be able to keep them at one or two cards in hand, and then eventually they'll run out of resources. And
Yeah.
just understanding that even though it's not on paper the right thing to do, in this situation it's the right thing to do. And that only comes with playing a lot of games and really thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah, that's super interesting to me when you talk about the consistency of a deck and understanding exactly what that deck is meant to do. As you know, I'm a mono green tragic, so I've been playing Bonnie since it came out. And Bonnie is very, I feel, similar in that regard, in that it's very one dimensional and it has one thing that it does and it does that well. And so understanding that and then pushing forward, that's super interesting to me to sort of understand that, picking that deck that does that. When you're picking the deck that does that, because you talk about black, yellow, Luffy, there was also another deck that was very sort of singular in what it did towards the end there, competing against black, yellow, and that was blue Doffy, and it was very singular in what it did. So why would you pick black, yellow over blue Doffy in that sort of scenario? They're both very singular in what they do.
Absolutely. So I think this is a really interesting one to talk about, because if, for example, Moria and Jinbei didn't get banned in the same list, I would without a doubt be playing Doffy at the next tournament. Doffy was a deck that I played a lot of the time, and I was very competent on Doffy. I played a lot of Doffy. But I think the main thing that really set it aside for me is the difference in, I would say, how much skill impacts the mirror when it comes to BY mirrors versus Doffy mirrors. Of course, there is skill in every mirror, like that's just how the game goes. But I feel like, well, as an example, I had a game at, I believe it was Nationals or the tournament before, where I was able to beat a BY mirror without a single gecko. And this is something where, like, when you play that many games, and once you've found, oh, this is how I'm efficient here and here and here, you can find, even though you have something that's not meant to be good for you, you can kind of like make lemonade with what you've got and find ways around. And you can tend to push at times that can just blow a lot of cards out of their hands. So even though Gecko Mori is a very efficient card, you've played better, so you're able to get the efficiency elsewhere. Whereas I feel Doffy is one of those, your opponent has Sengoku and you don't, that can be a bit tough. If they have like forecast law and you don't see a single one, that can be a little bit tough. So I felt like even though the Doffy mirror has a lot of skill, I feel like BY mirror had the most skill, especially during that format.
Yeah, cool. And that allowed you to distinguish yourself from other BY players when you came across them. So whereas, yeah, cool. That's a really good approach there. I guess, okay, so going on from that, where you've gone through, you've picked a deck, like you say, based on you enjoy that singular thing that it does. It's also quite a competitive deck. How are you approaching a regional in-person event? So we just had that one in Sydney, which I don't want to talk about because it was horrible for me. But so how do you approach that in terms of because that's like 8 games straight, right? There's limited breaks there. How do you approach something like that, like mentally, and like even physically? Like you get so drained I do, drained in those events. How are you preparing for those events?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty lucky in like how my mentality is when it comes to these events. I feel my brain really knows when to like kind of turn on and like block other things out. I even have a memory of someone that I met at the Nationals. They talked about, oh, we met at the Nationals or whatever, and they know this, but I literally have no, like, I didn't have any recollection of who they were because I was just so like focused on the event. And
Yeah.
I can really get into the zone. My biggest issue is that normally I can't really eat on the day of competition. When I played in Sydney, the first event that I won, I had a coffee in the morning and I had some cold hot chips at 6 p.m. That was really rough, and like just a couple of chips, and that's all I ate from like maybe 7 till like 9, 7 a.m. till 9 p.m. So I really get in the zone, and I think part of the thing that really helps with that is I don't look at rankings or tiebreakers or anything. I just play. Like I just
Yeah.
go, okay, next game is most important. I have so many people going, oh, if I lose this or if I win the next one, lose the next one or whatever. I'm like, just focus on winning your games if you bubble out. It happens. Just always good to focus forward. It's also very important for if you make mistakes in previous rounds. It's not good to think about, oh, what if I come 17th if I made this mistake. It's a completely different timeline. If you lose a game, even if you made a mistake, you might have, an easier bracket going on. Maybe you have some better matchups in the brackets that you're looking
Yeah.
at. But regardless, it's just not good to dwell on the past. Always good to just keep on playing, focus on your next game, think about what you can do in the moment, and if you make it, you make it. That's kind of the way that I've always done it.
Yeah. Okay. That's a excellent mentality. I've because you see at regional events where it will be games finish, everyone's sort of shunted outside whilst the remainders are playing, and it's like how do you maintain your focus in that sort of environment? Because I notice for me that like you go out there and you dwell on what you did wrong, or you sort of you talk to other players and bounce off that energy. So it's like having that just that momentum and focus, just be like, okay, next game is the most important game. Let's not worry about what happened. Let's focus on the next game and go from there. So that's really helpful. And the not eating, that's interesting. Is that purely a focus thing, or is that you don't want to be distracted? Is it what's going on there?
I honestly just can't eat, like, especially if I'm like undefeated, or if there's any avenue for, if I keep on winning, that I can make it into the top card. I literally just can't eat. I'll hammer like 4 or 5 liters of water in a day, but
Yeah.
I'll really struggle to just sit down and eat something, or like I'll have a lunch break. I'll maybe like a bite or two and then throw out the rest, which seems a little bit inefficient. So most of the time I just sit there and think about what's coming up. One thing that I also wanted to kind of go over when you're talking about talking to people outside, I think the best way to think about like talking to people, especially at a lunch break, is not trying to dwell on like what you could have done in the past, more what you can do in the future. Like maybe I'll give you an example. So if I'm playing like a UP Luffy and I verse like a Betty in an earlier round, I might talk to someone about what I did, especially, if it's someone like from my team or someone who's quite a renowned player, and we'll just kind of bounce off ideas. They might go, maybe you could have done this in this situation, but honestly, I don't think there's anything you could have done there. And
Yeah.
kind of getting some closure and understanding what you can do better to approach the rounds coming up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, instead of sort of like, sooking's the wrong word, but this the word that springs to mind. But yeah, instead of sooking, it's like analysing and getting that closure on what happened. Yeah. You mentioned your team there. You're in Eternal Magic, I believe.
Yep, correct,
Yeah.
correct.
How important is being in a team like that been for you and your continued success?
Absolutely. So, when it comes to Eternal Magic, I'll just give a quick like breakdown of how the team works. The team is based in Perth, and then we kind of have our subdivisions for each state. So we have each city, I should say. So we have Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. For my team that are in EM Brisbane, those are the guys that I play with like 95% of the time. It's my three teammates, Devel, Cam, and Ernest, and also our honorary fifth member, Daniel Peck, who he tests with us, he helps with us. He's not under the EM org, but he's one of the boys, and we all test together. And I mean, it's testament to how important it is to have people that you can trust and you get along with. My friend, I was talking about him before, Cam or Steven. He was the one who got me into the game, and he met my other friend Duvel at the pre-release event for One Piece. And a couple months later, like I think it was '03 or '04 or something like that, we won the first 3v3 tournament together.
Oh, nice.
And having that like that teamwork, that camaraderie. It's also good having people who are quite blunt, like especially Steven and I, or like Peck and I, like we'll just say to each other, "I think you should have done this better," and some people can get really hurt by that. But in reality, the people who care the most will they'll bring up those things like they'll bring up those things the most. Like they'll talk about what you should have done like differently, and what's your best move going forward. So it's really good to have people around you who you can trust, and understanding that people are not out to get you if they're giving you criticism. It's more so the opposite than anything.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's wonderful to be surrounded by that sort of family, I guess. When you're testing with these guys in the lead up to a big event, are you testing significantly more, or do you have like a set schedule of testing that you're like, you know what, we're just going to play 50 games per week, irrespective of what's coming up, and then that keeps us in a certain level, or do you just go, okay, we'll sort of like so I run ultra marathons, which is I don't run them very well, but I do them, and it's that progressive loading of adding more distance. So do you start like here we're playing like 3 games a week, whatever, and then load up to like 100 games a week before regionals, or is there like a steady amount and maybe a taper before regionals? Like, they're very interested in the amount of testing and gameplay you're getting as a group going into an event like that.
Absolutely. So I think the main thing when it comes to our group is that we have people who are married, people who have jobs. If it were 100% convenient, I would say that we would probably try to do 3 or 4 sessions a week, regardless of what's going on. However, it's also understandable that like people have their off time, people have their stuff to do. I think that in terms of like how it kind of builds up, we had one big competition in Brisbane where we actually had a boot camp a couple of days before, and that was kind of just figuring out what decks we should be playing, helping each other out, and I think it was like kind of 2 days in total where we were just hanging out, grabbing food, and playing games together. It is very important though to make sure that the rest is at the right time. So, for example, if you've been scrimming hard for Tuesday and Wednesday, probably just have a couple of chill days like Thursday, like Wednesday, Thursday, and then on Friday just try not to play any games. Just think about things. Thinking is fine, but just like not overexerting yourself. I also think that for the average player, burnout is a really big thing. Thankfully, I really love the game, so I'm kind of just able to play it all the time, talk about it. I think I've got like over 300 games in ranked sim for this season alone. And after my tournament, I don't even have anything on. I'll just be like playing a lot of games because I like playing games. Like I just want to get better. I'm even trying the new UP Sanji because I saw that doing well in a tournament in Japan. So
Yes,
really,
that was crazy. That's the event
yeah,
heavy one, right?
yeah, that's the one. That's the one. And it's so cool because you've kind of got a control blue build, kind of with that like Burgess feeling, where over time you're getting these like Sanjis that are just gonna end up winning the game for you.
Yeah.
But overall, it's really cool. But back on the topic of practice, we try to practice as much as we can, and we try to give people as much space and like distance and stuff as we can. I'd say if we're trying to like lock in a couple of days a week of testing, it's more just so we can tell the partners like, oh, we're gonna be here,
Yeah.
we're gonna be playing games, but I'll hang out with you another day, that kind of thing.
Yeah, framing the expectations. I love it.
Exactly.
Okay, that's cool. And does that approach differ between an online and an in-person event at all?
So I think it is mainly. I would say that the main in-person event that it really goes about is Nats. I think everyone's super like dialed in for Nats. I think for everything else though, in-person and online doesn't matter as much. I would say the thing that matters the most for us is when coming into a new set. Especially, I would say this set has been especially interesting because we had a completely like fresh slate. We had the ban list plus OP11 plus the starters. So yeah, we kind of have a lot of things to think about, and we're thinking, is Buggy a good pick? Do we want to actually play this one because it does better into the new meta? And kind of just figuring stuff out for ourselves and seeing what is the best approach for, if it's in person or online, it's kind of the same for us. I would say for myself personally, the online's like it doesn't differ so much, but I think for some people, if they're like paying to go to an event, they're flying somewhere, they might have a bit more of an expectation. But for me, I'm always just thinking, I don't care what this event is. I want to do well. I want to keep on moving forward and just be the best version of myself.
Yeah, cool. This has been really insightful for me, and I really appreciate your time.
No worries.
If you had a single piece of advice that you could give to someone who is attending a regionals, like someone similar to myself, so we're going to locals you do okay at locals. You might win one here and there, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go to a regionals or a nationals. Like, what's your one piece of advice that you think would have the most impact to someone like that?
Yeah, so I think this is a great question, and I think it really comes down to what meta a person is playing in, or like what the stance on the meta is. It's a little bit hard for me to give a. Actually, I've got a pretty good parallel for this one. So, what I would say is that it's good to have a good starting deck to kind of build from. Now, what I would say about this is that in '08 or '09, I would not recommend that a new player play something like BY. I would probably recommend that they play something a little bit more linear, something where the win condition is a little bit more obvious. However, and like a good example of that kind of deck to me right now would probably be like a buggy, or like a purple black Luffy or something like this. You understand, okay, this is my game plan that I want to go through every single game, getting really good at the mulligan patterns, really thinking about what do I need in this specific matchup, if you've got options, which one you use at each given time,
Yep.
and trying your best, and I'm very guilty of this, of trying to adapt to what other people think is the best deck. Now, the best deck can mean a couple of different things, and it means different things to other people. For example, right now, I'm sure the obvious one is UP Luffy, a deck that just has a crazy grind game, a deck that has a lot of options because you get to look at the top five cards and basically draw two in a turn. To other people, it's maybe like Betty, because you can just feel like your fundamentals are really strong and you just want quick games where you're clearing out all of the rest of the meta, and you're probably just trying to dodge some of the other buggy stuff. But yeah, for me, I would say that like Moria, Whitebeard, buggy style, where you're playing quite a linear deck, but
Yeah.
you want to play that deck to like the absolute limit of the deck, if that makes sense. So you want to be honest about, oh, maybe here I swung at the wrong time, maybe here I could have used bigger numbers, maybe here I could have mulliganed better, but just understanding that like some decks are more complicated than others, and you can be really, really good at a simple deck, and that's a really good point to kind of like start on.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that makes a lot of sense, and that's, I guess, coming back to the amount of practice and things that you're putting in as well. There, isn't it? Like, it's picking that deck with the very linear, straightforward win con, and then being like, okay, this is how this deck plays. I know this deck inside out. Let's go to Melbourne. Let's go to Sydney with this, and play it to the best of my abilities, and go from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's exactly how I started. I understood that when I started in '02, RG Law was just not like, it was a deck that I enjoyed playing, but I just wouldn't have been able to keep up with the other people like in the mirrors or like in the red matchups. I went to myself, I'm just going to do things my way. I'm just going to have a very simple game plan. I think, oh yeah, this is a good one to go off. Simple game plan just is basically understanding, in this matchup, I want to take this amount of life. I want to swing at this time. In this matchup, I maybe want to take less life. Like, for example, if you're versing Betty, your mulligan patterns, and having very strict rules and going, okay, when I do this, this works for me. If I do some, like, and then you can be a bit adventurous. You can try other strategies. You can try, well, what if I just gut out every hit? Wow, this actually works out a little bit better in this matchup, because if we're just going board for board, I win every time. And then you can kind of build your understanding of the deck yourself and the understanding of the matchups, and just get really honed in on that strategy. And yeah, it's a great place to start, and the building blocks just go forever.
Yeah, that's yeah, because it's applicable to everything else after that, right? That's really, yeah, that's cool. Cool. So we've been going for a bit now. Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Do you want to plug yourself there anywhere? Anything that you need to get off your chest?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first thing I'm going to say is thanks to all of my friends at EM. Thanks to my boss who sponsors us all. EM is fantastic. They've been fantastic for us. My friends in Brisbane as well, my teammates have been fantastic. So thank you guys. There might even be a couple of them who come on this show later on. So it'll be cool for people to meet them.
Yeah, they're always
But
in the
yeah,
top there.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, as for myself, if you want to get better at the game, or if you just want to like ask me some questions on Facebook or Twitter, that works. I'm pretty open to answering pretty much everything. But if you want some coaching or you want to check out my guides, make sure to check them out at Metafy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me.
We'll have those links in the description and on the post so that people know where to find those. Final question that I want to end everything on is, could be controversial, we'll find out, but are you a manga or anime guy when it comes to One Piece? Or not at all? Do you just play the cards?
Okay, so I actually haven't finished One Piece. I'm about 800 episodes in, but I watched those 800 episodes like as soon as I started the game. I just like watched a ton.
Yep.
When it comes to manga, I mean everything kind of gets spoiled for us anyway. Like it's just everywhere.
Yeah.
But one thing that I will say is and I'm generally an anime guy when it comes to like all the different anime. But I've only read one manga, and that's because I love Bleach, and I needed to know how it ended. So yeah, for me, like if I read the manga, it's got like a very special place in my heart. So
Yeah,
yeah,
okay. Yeah. So what's episode 800? That's still whole cake, is it?
yeah, just getting into Whole Cake. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, thanks for that, Elliot. I've certainly learned a lot in this call, and I'm sure a lot of people watching and listening will learn a lot too. Um, Again, thank you for being our first person on the podcast. Really, really appreciate that. And I just want to wish you the best of luck in the rest of your matches, regionals, things like that. I've booked into Brisbane, so be up there to say hello. And figuring a few things out, see if we can get to Adelaide. But yeah, thanks again for being on.
No worries. Have a good day.
Yeah, cheers, mate. See you later. Bye.